Hey guys, it's Alex, and we have the NFC Wild Card games today. But first, I want to kind of recap real quick. Yesterday, where the AFC, we have the Texans and the Titans moving on. So the Titans will face the Baltimore Ravens, and the Texans will face the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, both games yesterday were awesome. Both were close, low-scoring games. And I'm hoping today, with the NFC matchups that we have, it's going to be a little high scoring just because I love to watch the offense. But that doesn't take away from the games yesterday. Now, jumping right into the games for today, at 12:05 Central Time, we have the NFC South champion Saints, 13-3, playing the NFC North second place Vikings, who are 10-6. Now, the spread is set at 7.5 points, favoring the Saints. And we have 49.5 or 49.5 being the over-under. Going into the later afternoon game, the 3:40 Central Time game, we have the NFC East champ Eagles, 9-7, facing off against the NFC West second place Seahawks. They are 11-5. Now that spread is set at 1.5, favoring the Seahawks, and the over-under is set at 45.5. Both are going to be great games, and we're going to jump right into the Vikings versus Saints game. Now, the Vikings versus Saints game is a rematch from the Miracle Minneapolis 2 years ago, and the Saints are definitely going to have some bad blood coming into this game, but we're going to start with the Vikings. Starting with the Vikings, the Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs combination on the outside, along with the Kyle Rudolph combination from the tight end position, makes for a lethal passing attack for Kirk Cousins to really use. And we cannot forget about Dalvin Cook. Now, Dalvin Cook has to play like he did in the first half of the season in order to be incredibly effective. But if Dalvin Cook is playing like that, and then you have Kyle Rudolph, Adam Thielen, who hopefully is doing better than he did when he was, going through the injury bug, and then Stephon Diggs, who has been incredible throughout the year, we're really going to have some great offense from the Vikings side. Now, great offense accompanied with great pass protection for Kirk Cousins allows for a lot of deep balls and a lot of really ability for Kirk Cousins to create offense, which is really what we're looking for in this matchup. Because once we get over to the Saints side, I'll explain that the offenses are scary comparable in a lot of ways. But just quickly jumping over to the defensive side, you have Daniel Hunter, who has 14.5 sacks on the defensive line. That is 4th in the league, and so he is going to be definitely somebody to watch. Now, the last thing I really want to touch on defensively, because largely I'm going to be touching on offense, is they have a kind of middle-of-the-pack pass defense, the Vikings do. So that really comes into play when we switch over and we talk about that Drew Brees and Michael Thomas amazing connection throughout this season. As most people know, Michael Thomas set the single season receptions record at 149 receptions. He has 1,725 yards and 9 touchdowns. Absolutely insane. Basically unguardable at this point. His name on all social media is Can't Guard Mike, and you seriously cannot guard this guy. So going to be really interesting to see what the Vikings can do with a middle-of-the-pack pass defense against the best, not arguably, definitely the best receiver in the game currently. And that's not only the weapon that Drew Brees has. He has Jared Cook, who is an incredible tight end, very comparable to Kyle Rudolph, and he has Alvin Kamara, who is an incredible running back, not only receiving but also rushing, also comparable to Dalvin Cook. So a lot of the different areas you see in this game, the teams are just really kind of synonymous. So it's going to be a great offensive battle. And the last quick thing I want to touch on offensively is the Drew Brees element. The last 6 games, Drew Brees has been on fire. 22 touchdowns and 1 interception. That really bodes well for the passing attack that we're going to see thrown to Michael Thomas, thrown to Jared Cook, and thrown to Alvin Kamara, amongst the other players that help out this Saints offense. Now, the only thing I really want to touch on the defensive side for the Saints is that they are a top-tier rushing attack. And I mentioned that Daniel Hunter is number 4 in sacks with 14.5. Well, right in front of him is Cam Jordan at 15.5, 3rd place. So kind of, again, just really that very comparable player-to-player Viking to Saints sort of matchup. That being said, the Vikings, in order to win this game, they have to stop the Drew Brees and Michael Thomas connection. And as we've seen with the record that Michael Thomas broke, that has really been not really done all season, to be quite frank. So it's going to be a stretch for them. A reason I'm going with the Saints, and for the Saints, they really just have to stop Dalvin Cook. If Dalvin Cook is anything like the first half of the season, they're going to have some problems. But I expect the Vikings to cover, and I'm taking the over in this game. Again, I think the offenses are way too strong on both sides, so the over is definitely a good bet on this one. and I expect the Vikings to cover. Switching over to the Seahawks and Eagles, we're going to take a look back at Week 12 where the Seahawks played the Eagles and beat them 17-9. Now, those were two completely different teams. The Seahawks had a majority of their running backs at that point. So, as you'll see in this quick analysis of the Seahawks and then the Eagles, both teams are injury-ridden. This is definitely, of the 4 games for the NFC and the AFC Wild Card, these two are the ones with the broken limbs, just basically trying to crawl to the finish line at this point. And it's fitting because this being the last game of the Wild Card round. Now, I mentioned that the Seahawks and their injured core, running back core, and that unfortunately has really been their bread and butter. Russell Wilson was and still is in the MVP race, although Lamar Jackson is absolutely running away with it. We seem to forget that Russell Wilson was definitely leading this conversation at one point in the season. However, that is also when he had Rashad Penny, who is out with an ACL, Chris Carson, who is out with a hip injury, and CJ Prosise, who is out with an arm injury, all done for the season, so they had to bring in Marshawn Lynch. Now, Marshawn Lynch did a very good job last week, just kind of doing what Marshawn Lynch does, which is basically red zone, hand him the ball, and push through. He had a touchdown when he leaped over the offensive and defensive line to reach for the touchdown. He got it. I believe he had about 25 to 28 yards, like 2.5 yards per carry, something along those lines. So not incredible numbers, but the unfortunate thing is you have another running back, Travis Homer, who really is kind of the utilitarian back, while Marshawn Lynch, when he's in the game, you really expect them to hand him the ball, and he just runs. Travis Homer, on the other hand, he can break out for a route. He's more of a blocking back. He's kind of really just a younger guy who gets more things done instead of just Marshawn Lynch, who I just said just basically runs straight up the middle and does what Marshawn Lynch does, which is stiff arm people and just bully people. Now, the rushing attack is not the only thing the Seahawks have. They have a great outside threat with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf, the rookie, has had 900 yards this season, and Tyler Lockett had just over 1,000 yards. Both amazing receivers in their own regard. So a lot of this game is going to be predicated on their ability to make plays once Russell Wilson gets them the ball. And it will be an issue because Dwayne Brown is out again, their left tackle. So you're really going to probably see a lot of Travis Homer in the game because there's going to be a lot of blocking running backs because they're going to have their backup left tackle, and then a lot of quick sort of out routes or quick slant routes or dump off passes or those sorts of things, because without Dwayne Brown, Russell Wilson is really going to be moving outside the pocket, and it's really going to be interesting to see how he adapts to not having his left tackle yet again and still trying to produce offense without his running backs, his normal running backs. So I've talked about the Seahawks. I want to switch over to the Eagles. And the Eagles, strangely enough, although they have been damaged in basically every part you can imagine, wide receiver, running back, offensive line, defensive line, secondary, linebackers, they've been injured everywhere. They still have one of the strongest red zone offenses. And then where it really counts on third down, they have a strong offense on third down, but also a strong defense on third down. So really kind of, if you're looking at it, those are really important areas to be good at. Your red zone offense, your third down defense in order for the opponent to punt the ball, and then your third down offense for you to progress down the field, burn clock, create some momentum, give your defense some rest. Those are really sort of key. I mean, in a lot of areas they're lacking because they're so injury ridden. One of the major things is they have a really weak secondary. So Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are expected to have bigger games because the cornerbacks are just not up to par. They had Ronald Darby in, but he was a disappointment. He's now on the IR. And speaking of IR, Zach Ertz will not make a return. So we have Dallas Goedert, who is going to be playing tight end, and he has been really a great supplemental piece. And a lot of the reason that Carson Wentz is still breathing is because of those dump-off passes, as Carson Wentz has been running for his life and really just trying to find somebody down the field open who is at least NFL worthy at this point. Now, I know I've bagged on the Eagles a little more, and I am personally actually an Eagles fan, and it's difficult to watch them. I have a lot of faith in Doug Peterson, and I also have a lot of faith in Pete Carroll. But strangely enough, the Eagles match up very well against the Seahawks, and they're at home. So I'm inclined, and I am going to take the Eagles by just a point, maybe 2 points, because this is going to be a really close game. I don't expect it to be a high-scoring game because really the Seahawks are going to depend on their passing game. Without a key left tackle, I don't expect their passing game to be very productive. And then the Eagles have kind of just stumbled through games since they've been riddled with injuries basically every game. I don't expect this. Maybe both teams under 21 points. No more than 3 touchdowns on each side, but maybe a 1-point game, like a 21-20 sort of thing. But I got to go with the Eagles. I know it. To me, I think about it, I go, okay, 11-5 Seahawks, and they competed strongly in the NFC West. And then you have the NFC East teams who were, 8-8 and 9-7, and the Cowboys were kicking, fighting, and screaming all the way to the finish line that they didn't want to win, and then the Eagles win. So it's really like, okay, am I going to go with the team that's better? But you take away their running backs. Anyway, I'm going with the Eagles by a point, no more than 3 touchdowns on each side. And that's basically everything I have for you guys. I hope the NFC games are, close to as exciting as the AFC games were yesterday. But if you haven't seen the AFC video, go check it out on the website, idealsportsentertainment.com. ISE Nation is the YouTube channel, so you can look at that. It's in the top bar of the website. You can also check out our podcast, Sliced Apples. I am at Alex DeClaire on Twitter, and I will see you next time.